joining us in the studio today are Brandon Steiner, president of Steiner Sports, and John Brigandy, a memorabilia dealer from New York City. It's great to see you guys again, and we're going to get to our first guest right away, Vegas Nacy, and he's brought in some pictures from his family's photo albums. Tell us about the connection that your grandmother and your grandfather had with Babe Ruth.
Yeah, my grandmother was a professional opera singer on Broadway, and my grandfather was a conductor on Broadway, and they used to take vacations at a place called Greenwood Lake in New Jersey, and that's where Babe Ruth used to frequent. And they just started, you know, talking and became friends, and every year they'd meet up, and here's some of the photos that
Isn't that something? What did they tell you about him?
Oh, they said he was a great guy. They said he loved kids, which everybody's heard. But he loved kids, and he'd sit there at this resort and fish from sunup to sunset.
This is really impressive, isn't it?
I love this photo collection, and John and I are probably going to disagree a little on this, because I see this more of an opportunity to take probably a couple of those photos, get a negative, and let's roll. I mean, I want, you know, because I've seen some great Babe Ruth photos that I want to make copies of.
Get the negative and make copies
be able to
of
put
it.
Yeah, be able to put it out there for the market. We see Babe Ruth photos that are out there, and a lot of them not that great. You take an unusual photo like this, and I'm ready to make about a limited edition of a couple thousand of them. And that's where I would go with that. And the value of those negatives, whether it be 2 or 3, probably about 500 a negative, or 500 a photo that we're able to use. And that's kind of what I would do with that. And I know that probably makes you cringe.
Well,
Brandon's proposition, though, he would still have those photos and have those memories.
That's correct.
But this would be a way to sort of cash in and still have it.
Plus, I have another.
And isn't that the American
10
way?
of them at home.
oh, you
Wow.
do?
Right,
Oh,
yeah.
see, that's wonderful. There may be
Share, John, share.
there may be more for you.
Share a little bit with the people out there. They can't have these photos. Why not?
And if we get plenty of spectacular sports memorabilia items here at What's It Worth, but once in a while somebody comes in with something that isn't exactly what they thought it was. John Brigandy from Brigandy Coin Company in Manhattan is here to help us spot the frauds, which is not easy. We've got 2 Babe Ruth baseballs right here. Now, I cannot tell which one is the real one.
Well, by far, this is the real one, and this is the fake one.
Now, how do you know that?
Generally speaking, this ball is completely consistent throughout. That is to say, the autograph tends to match, or does match, the ball itself. So as it aged, they both aged together.
And as you said, the whole package tells a story.
That's
then.
correct. If you were to try to break down each letter, or the autograph versus the median on which it was signed, you might come up occasionally with a different idea, with a different conclusion. But you have to look at it in its totality.
What kinds of things do, well, I guess you call them forgers. What kinds of tricks do they use to fool people?
You'll notice that they took a ball and they toned it over. And how do I know it's toned over? Well, it's artificially toned, and I would know that from experience. And the process is this. What they would do is get an old ball, because to get a ball itself that was unsigned from the day is virtually impossible. So they took signatures off an old ball. They washed it down. So now that created an artificial look. At the same time, they went on and they put the autograph. They forged the autograph. Now, the ink is very dark, and the ball is now very scrubbed up, if you will.
And we also noticed something on the other side of the ball that you pointed out, that it's been restamped.
They restamped it because a ball from this age, generally speaking, will not have as dark a stamp as this. So they went out and they made up a new stamp to do the logo
Well, for
here.
a lot of trouble.
Yeah, but there's a lot of money involved.
Right,
So,
and it's crooked.
and it, by the way, is crooked. So now they've got their little setup. Now, how do they disguise it? Well, in this case, what they did was they took some sort of I'm smelling it for an oil, and it is some sort of an oil and some other base, and they tried to cover it up and make it yellow. Now, what you don't have is you don't have a consistency throughout. You don't have the color of the ink matching the ball itself, just for starters, among other things.
So the real ball is worth?
This real ball is worth upwards of $20,000.
And the fake one?
Zero. Now, I suppose the more pertinent question would be, what would that be worth sold as real, which is what this was? Anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 in this condition,
That's
probably
a huge
$5,000.
loss. Okay, now what about these framed photographs? I mean, the photographs are real, obviously, but the signatures, the autographs underneath?
Each one of these 4 autographs is considered terrible forgeries.
Why is that?
for a variety of reasons, but just in terms of the letters themselves, they're not done well. Just to get more specific, on the Gehrig, for example, what they did there was they took an old ink and they watered it down to try to create a darker, a lighter effect, an aging effect, a brown effect.
Almost a sepia tone,
Almost,
right?
it is. That's exactly right. And at the same time, they either were able to find an old piece of scrapbook paper, or took an old piece of paper and aged it. And you can do that by putting it in the oven and a variety of other ways. As for the speaker, this is an old piece of scrapbook paper, a green background. But again, the signature doesn't, the strength of the signature does not match
The age of the
The age
paper.
of the paper. And I think that's pretty clear. You can see that from almost from the other side of the room, right? The Cobb is amateurish, but what they did with the Cobb is Cobb was noted to use green ink, generally green fountain pen ink. So they went out and they found themselves green fountain pen. That's not so bad because that's because it's tough to date green ink because it sort of tends to stay the same color, but it's done on bright white paper, you know, almost like an index card from yesterday bought at the stationery shop. The Ruth is kind of a combination of all of these things. They tried to darken up the page, the paper itself, and they used jet black, as you can see, like India ink almost. And of course, the signature itself, especially the B, isn't even
Well, now
within
as
the
I'm
boundaries.
looking at the Bs, yeah, I can.
And if you could compare that to the ball over here, you could see it's almost really a night and day
bad B.
difference.
Hi, I'm Frank Ricotta, and welcome to my Yankee room. I have some very interesting pieces here. Some that are worth money and some that are just very valuable to me. The Yankee logo was made from a stencil from a girl that worked for me who's actually a Met fan, and we had to do a little arm twisting to get her to make the stencil. The 1962 Yankee piece is probably one of my favorite, the centerpiece of my collection. Basically, it's a 1961 Yankee team. Roger Maris, 61 home runs that year. Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford, all Hall of Famers. Just a great team. And being 8 years old and rooting for the Yankees, that was it for me. A Yankee fan for life. Louis Soho signed the 2000 championship hat, and he signed the Louis Soho Med Killer. On opening day, David Cohn decided to come out to the bleachers, and he wound up sitting right next to us. And the hat that I wore to most of the Yankee games, he signed on the inside of the hat. I have a book of Hall of Famers, and I get their autographs and have them personalized. And Phil Rizzuto happened to be another great Yankee player, but one of my favorite announcers, personalized the 8x10 to Frank U. Huckleberry, and that also has a lot of special meaning to me.